In the Allied headquarters at Reims, General Jodl signed the instrument of German surrender on May 7, 1945. At the next day, there ended in Europe a conflict that had been raging since September 1st, 1939.
General Jodl, Chief of Staff of the German Army, faced his conquerors across a narrow table in a French schoolroom, and thus ended the reign of the so-called victory. Official emissary of the defeated Nazi Empire, Jodl rendered unconditionally glorious Allied powers, with the United States represented by Lieutenant General Walter Beadle Smith. In just a few minutes, the simple ceremony in the little schoolroom brought to an end the major phase of the most paralyzing war the world had ever known. A war which had involved millions, some of whom fought relentlessly for the domination of the world, and others to give mankind throughout the world the chance to live in freedom and the long-awaited victory was a reality. In its wake, the war left Germany in ruins, her principal cities and towns demolished, some 8 million of her people killed or wounded, and her industry almost obliterated, a nation completely broken in spirit and starving. For the Allies, the price of victory was appallingly high, beyond the power of statistician to compute. History lays the blame for this world struggle on the head of one man, a little German house painter, who instilled a hysterical devotion to his party and cause in millions of German men, women, and children. Adolf Hitler's pattern for conquest was based on promoting unrest and then forcing Nazi party members into key posts. In March 1938, such a bloodless revolution was conducted in Austria. The Nazis took over the government. German troops poured across the river, and once Austria became the first nation to fall before the weight of Nazi aggression. Ignoring worldwide protests, Hitler looked about for still other fields of conquest. At Munich in September 1930, he took full advantage of the willingness of more peaceable nations to compromise, to agree to almost any Hitler proposal that would avert war. Signed eagerly by Benito Mussolini for Italy, by Prime Minister Neville Chamberlain for Great Britain, and by Premier Edouard Régnier for France, the historic Munich called for the Nazi occupation of the Sudetenland territory of Czechoslovakia. Protection was guaranteed for shrunken Czechoslovakia's new borders. But to Hitler, the pact was merely a slip. A month later, its terms were forgotten. Nazi tide swept without resistance over all Czechoslovakia. Into Berlin, heart of the Nazi homeland, Hitler was paraded as the greatest conquering hero of the ages. The heady fever of victory was sweeping across the whole of the Reich, drawing more and more Germans to the enthusiastic support. After months of negotiations with Britain and France for a three-power treaty to guarantee Poland's boundaries, Soviet Russia suddenly turned about and entered into a non-aggression with Nazi Germany. Although communists had once been described as the scum of the earth by the Nazi Führer, communism and Nazism had long been irreconcilable enemies. Both nations considered the partnership mutually advantageous from a strictly standpoint. A fortnight after the signing of the Russo-German Pact, the Hitler timetable called for a quick thrust against Poland. This time, there was no mistaking the Führer's intentions. No compromise was possible. Carefully trained Nazi soldiers deposited on Polish soil in a lightning strike helped disorganize the enemy, which was ill-equipped to resist the powerful German blitzkrieg. Behind the paratroopers came hundreds of German tanks, which plunged on through the Polish countryside against little opposition. The Polish plans for defense were virtually worthless against the might of the high-tech modern German war machine. The vaunted Nazi Wehrmacht was brutally thorough, sparing nothing in its steady advance. All the years of training and indoctrination of the ideal repaid their cost in Poland. For in each young Nazi soldier surged the will to conquer for the Führer. Yes, the Nazi leaders had planned well. In those first months of war, the world seemed to them to be theirs for the taking. Historic September 1st in 1939, when the cancerous Nazi growth spread farther still, the people, England, and the world entered a new era.
And now, ladies and gentlemen, here is a recorded message from the Prime Minister, Honorable Neville Chamberlain.
I am speaking to you in the cabinet room in